Justice doesn't come with a gavel, it comes with a pounding at your door when the world is asleep. The sound ripped through my apartment at 2 in the morning, a frantic rhythm that didn't belong in a place meant for rest. Military housing was usually silent at this hour, the kind of silence that let old scars breathe. I froze halfway off the couch, one hand brushing the table for balance. The pounding came again, louder, urgent, until I moved with the certainty that hesitation never helps. When I cracked the door, the hallway light carved Rachel's face into shadow and bruise. My sister swayed once, then folded against me, dead weight in my arms. Behind her, Emily's chair snagged on the frame, her little knuckles white on the rests. A silver necklace clutched so tight I thought it might snap. I dragged them both inside, shoved the door with my shoulder, and locked us in. Rachel's breath was ragged, her shirt-torn ribs trembling under my grip. Emily stayed silent, wide-eyed, the necklace pressed to her chest like a secret charm. The air smelled of sweat and fear, sharp enough to sting. I grabbed the hoodie from the chair and draped it over Rachel, though the shake in her arms told me warmth wasn't the problem. Then my phone buzzed on the table. I didn't want to look, but I did. A message glowed across the screen. Ignore her. She made her choice. Mom, the same woman who drilled family comes first into us, had just sentenced her own daughter to abandonment. My jaw locked hard enough to ache. I placed the phone face down because rage could wait. Survival couldn't. I crouched before Emily. You hurt. She shook her head, eyes darting to her mother. Rachel tried to speak but only whispered, Don't. Call Mom. Not a problem, I said. She's the last one I'd call. I pulled the field kit from beneath the sink, fingers steady, blade quick on frayed fabric. The bruising spreading across Rachel's ribs told a story without words. She winced, nearly fainted, Emily clutching the necklace harder, eyes wet but defiant. You're safe now, I told them, voice low. Not even Mom can take that away. I reached for the phone again, not to answer betrayal, but to summon help. 911, domestic assault, adult female child, present suspect, unknown location. The dispatcher's calm tone filled the room, promising sirens. When the call ended, the silence pressed in again, heavy and waiting. Rachel leaned against the couch, barely upright. Emily's breathing matched mine, shallow but steady. Outside, faint at first, then closer, a wail cut through the night. Siren echoes in distance. Olivia rests hand near holster, out of reflex. Justice has entered my house, and it's not leaving. They say silence is golden. In the ER, silence is just another accomplice. Fluorescent light bleached the color from everything, walls, faces, fear. We pushed Rachel through triage. Emily's chair ticked beside me, small hands locked around that silver necklace. I gave the nurse Rachel's data. The smell of bleach and overbrewed coffee hung under the vents. A resident pressed along her ribs. She flinched, left. X-ray vitals machines. When the doctor returned, she spoke in clean lines, 2 cracked ribs, bruising consistent with assault, likely concussion. Do you want to file a report? The doctor asked. Rachel stared past my shoulder. Not yet. I nodded once instead of arguing. I knelt by Emily. You did well. Grandma was there, she whispered. The sentence rang through me. Margaret's text, ignore her. She made her choice, wouldn't fade. I called Agent Brooks. Grant, I need legal lanes, I said. She consents. I want to gather without crossing a line. Get written consent. Document everything. Timestamp hash files, duplicate to encrypted storage. Stay out of his VA records without authority. Copy. I went back in and opened my notes. Rachel's hand shook as she signed a narrow power of attorney I kept in my go bag. I photographed it, saved to 2 drives, and began a timeline. Victor has the cards, Rachel said. He keeps Emily's SSI money. Medicaid, too. Mom co-signed so he could move it. How long? Months? Maybe a year. He says it's for the house. I wrote everything. Merchant names, dates. He vanished with cash, new tools that never left their boxes. Each entry got a timestamp and my initials. Chain of custody starts with the first honest sentence. My pen scratched like a metronome, keeping time against panic. Rachel, I said I'm going to ask things you don't want to remember. She nodded. We listed the last assault witnesses' photos, texts. I saved the threatening number from last week and backed up every file into an encrypted folder named for a date I would not forget. My phone buzzed on the tray. A new text bled across the glass. Drop it, Olivia. Or, lose your stripes. I didn't answer. I screenshotted exported metadata, hashed the image, and dropped it in the folder. Good. They just handed me Exhibit A. She'll side with him, Rachel murmured. She already did, I said. The doctor returned with discharge instructions and a promise of a social worker by morning. I asked for copies of imaging mandated reporter steps and a subpoena contact. She gave what the law allowed. I filed it under control, not much, but enough to begin. Emily tugged my sleeve. Can we go home soon? As soon as they finish, I said. Until then, we're a unit. I washed my hands. Water cut pale paths across my knuckles. On the counter, the phone trembled with silent threats. I muted the line. Quiet didn't fix anything. It made space to plan emergency protective order account hold, call the school, notify CPS secure housing. I pictured the account screens. I'd pull the dates that would betray him better than any confession. The list unspooled like a rope I intended to climb. Through ER glass, Olivia spots black SUV with tinted windows idling outside. Her gut tightens. The night wasn't over, it was only changing shape. He thought he could bury me with threats. I don't bury easy, I file and record. Dawn hadn't broken. The courtyard outside my unit was a gray dish of quiet. I set my phone to record. Then the knock, 2 slow taps. A pause, 2 more. Calculated courtesy. I opened on the chain. Victor smiled like a salesman. We're all family, Olivia. Let's not make this ugly. Family from the man who turned my sister's ribs into a map of fingerprints. I kept my face calm and the record light rolling. You're at my door before sunrise. Say what you came to say. He leaned close, cologne sour over stale beer. You step in, you lose your career. Silence can be a mirror. I let it show him nothing. The mic drank every syllable. You hearing me? He said, loud and clear. The grin slipped. He glanced past me, maybe expecting Margaret to step from my kitchen like a cue. When she didn't, he flexed his jaw. Rachel's unstable. Emily needs stability. I'm it. You can leave, I said, and shut the door. I saved the file, exported metadata, hashed it, and dropped copies into 2 encrypted drives. Chain of custody is boredom turned into armor. I named the file by time and content 0507.berry, my career.m4a. Agent Brooks picked up on the second ring. I gave him the capsule version. One-party consent, he said. With Rachel's written authority, you can gather her personal financial records. Stay out of his VA material without authorization. Keep your logs clean, already hashed and backed up. Then think like an auditor. Time, source, destination. So I did. I opened the bank portal tied to Emily's SSI deposits where funds landed before they migrated. I sent a $1 transfer and watched the authorization trail. Minutes later, a pending verification pinged with a merchant ID I knew, a luxury sporting goods chain off the interstate. Screenshots, timestamps, hash. Recent activity populated Vegas resort charges, boutique tools, a condo deposit. Receipts told the story he wouldn't. At Oro 900, the summons hit report to Colonel Hayes. I changed into uniform. Fabric turned spine into instruction. Hayes kept his office cold enough to teach discipline. I came to parade rest. He didn't waste time. Your mother alleges abuse of authority. Jag will review. The words were clean as a blade. Sir, I have Rachel's power of attorney. Everything is lawful and documented, obtained with consent through civilian channels. My logs are available to Jag. He studied me like a file he intended to read twice. Stay in bounds, Grant. Don't give anyone cause. Aye, sir. I printed the transcript of Victor's doorstop speech marked the second he threatened my career and stapled the checksum behind it. Paper makes people behave. Back home, I annotated the screenshot sequence from the bait transfer, circled the merchant code, listed the time deltas. I added a page labeled Witnesses and wrote two names. Mrs. Patterson, teacher. Under that, a thin line CPS pressure attempt by Margaret document. The phone buzzed with a blocked call, then stopped. I logged the time anyway. Minute by minute, the day took shape around evidence, not fear. I practiced testimony out loud, short sentences, no speculation, no adjectives that make truth sound like theater. I thought of Emily's hands around the necklace, of Rachel's voice thinning when she said not to call Mom, of Victor's breath at my door. Some threats are just mirrors, they show you what you refuse to surrender. I taped a one-page plan inside the cabinet above the coffee file record duplicate, verify, breathe. Morning climbed the blinds and laid a pale stripe across the counter. Discipline gives fear a place to stand that isn't your throat. Leaving Hayes's office, I feel the weight my own mother just weaponized the army against me. I whisper, if they want a war, they've chosen the wrong soldier. Stay with me, subscribe now to catch the moment Olivia turns intimidation into proof and steps into the next chapter. Courtrooms aren't about truth. They're about who bleeds facts faster than the lies can stand. The benches were heavy oak that made you sit up straight. Pale morning light cut a chalk line across the seal. Outside, reporters buzzed about VA rumors. Inside, the air felt like a held breath. I took my place behind Claire Palm's dry spine, quiet, the threat recording on my phone, and a folder of timestamps and the $1 bait trail. Victor's attorney stood first, voice sounded smooth. He called Rachel volatile, accused her of abandoning the marital home, and implied I'd manipulated her. He gestured to Margaret, who wore the practiced concern of a matriarch, chin lifted as if dignity were a shield. Claire rose without hurry. Medical records, she said, and the bailiff carried up copies, radiology reports, photographs time-stamped the night Rachel collapsed at my door, chart notes reading consistent with assault. Claire's tone didn't reach for pity, it asked the room to count. She entered my exhibit list, time, source, destination, then nodded to me. I stepped to the stand, swore in, and kept my answers in short rails. I described the 2 a.m. knock, the bruising, my call to 911. Then Claire cued the clip from my door, Victor's voice filling the speakers. You step in, you lose your career. The courtroom went so quiet, ventilation sounded like wind across snow. I clarified consent and chain of custody. The judge marked it, admitted. Next witness, Claire said. Mrs. Patterson walked like a woman who'd seen enough nonsense to be immune. I live next door to Mrs. Grant, she said. I saw her collect Emily's SSI checks and hand cash to Mr. Morris. Many times. Claire let the words sit until the room noticed the pattern. Then the letter from Emily's teacher professional measured, devastating. Emily often lacks necessary adaptive supplies, it read, while the family appears to make discretionary luxury purchases. I watched Margaret's mouth pinch a seam coming loose. CPS took the stand, a representative with a careful voice. We received phone calls we viewed as inappropriate pressure from Mrs. Margaret Grant, she said. We declined. The matriarch mask didn't crack. It dulled. Claire pivoted to the money trail. We placed the exhibit with the merchant code from my $1 test and the series of resort boutique and tool charges that followed. Funds tied to Emily's benefits moved through this account, Claire said. The spending pattern is inconsistent with the child's documented needs. Victor kept his smile like a man betting on the river card. Claire moved in. Mr. Morris, who paid for the Vegas trip on May 12th if Rachel's account was frozen, he blinked, stalled, then aimed for the nearest lifeboat. Margaret handled the money. A murmur cut the room. The judge raised a hand, then spoke for the record. Counsel. The witness's answer contradicts his prior statement regarding sole management of household finances. Noted. Margaret stared forward. If there was a prayer in her mouth, it dried there. Truth didn't need volume today. It needed shape, and the exhibits gave it bones. Claire tightened the knot with a final line of questions that required nothing from me but breath. I watched Rachel unclasp and reclasp her hands, a controlled tremor choosing a new rhythm. I thought of Emily's whisper in the ER. Grandma was there, and of the black SUV idling through our nights. Let them film. Paper doesn't blink. The judge leaned back, weighing a scale we could not see. Folder's edges bit my palms. Facts had bled enough today. Judge temporary custody remains with Rachel. Protective order stands. Final ruling pending further evidence. Outside, I spot the black SUV again. This time, the window lowers, someone inside films me on a phone. They once told me silence was weakness. Today, silence signed their downfall. Rain buttoned the courthouse windows in cold silver, the kind that makes morning feel earlier than it is. I sat behind Claire, spine-straight uniform under a dark coat, listening to the hush that settles before a verdict-shaped day. Victor arrived in a suit one size too handsome for him. Margaret floated in behind pearls and posture, a cathedral built of denials. The reporters smeared the glass with breath, waiting for a crack. His lawyer recycled the old story, Rachel unstable, me, manipulative Emily, better off with a man who budgets his temper. Claire didn't raise her voice. She lifted a letter. VAOIG has confirmed Mr. Morris's disability claim is fraudulent. The words made a clean incision. Exhibits followed the $1 merchant code. The resort charges the tool spree that never touched a bolt on Emily's chair. The judge turned to Margaret. Response. She kept her hands folded, knuckles pale, and chose nothing. Her silence wasn't grace. It was arithmetic: subtract the truth, and hope the sum behaves. The room felt it. I felt it in the small of my back, the place discipline lives. Rachel's breath evened beside me. I could smell rain on her sleeve, hospital soap long since rinsed away. The child advocate's door stayed shut. Emily colored in a quieter world. Anything further, the judge asked. Just this, Claire said, and laid down a single-page timeline, funds the teacher's letter in tidy lines. Lies prefer fog. Facts prefer lists. The judge read, pen ticking the margin, then set the file aside. We are done with shadows. The gavel came down, full custody to Rachel Grant Morris. Permanent order enforced. Benefits safeguarded under her name. Sound bled from the room. Victor stared as if waiting for a teleprompter. Margaret watched the floor, and the pearls learned what weight was. Referral to federal prosecutors went in with the clerk's stamp. No thunder, just rain and paper. Justice is more paperwork than poetry. Outside, the rain thinned to drizzle. Inside, I felt shoulders unlock vertebrae at last. By afternoon, the storm thinned. Colonel Hayes called me to his office. The blinds were wet stripes on the wall. He closed the folder that held my name. Jag reviewed your file. You stayed in bounds. You keep your stripes. I exhaled from somewhere I'd been holding since 2 a.m. He added, there are two kinds of silence in uniform: discipline and cowardice. You chose the first. Your mother chose the second. At Rachel's new place, sunlight found the carpet like a promise, finally on time. Emily rolled to her wall and hung the silver necklace on a small brass hook. It's not for memory. It's for freedom. The room changed temperature when she said it. We ate simple food at a clean table, and no one watched the door. A week later, on the training field, cadets moved in crooked lines that would one day straighten. Boots thudded. Cadence called clouds broke open to blue. I stood with a clipboard and a steadier heart. Protecting family isn't a mission you clock out of. It's a legacy you live. I went home and opened my notebook. One line to close the day, the case, the night that started it all. Justice may come late, but when it comes, it never leaves. Thanks for walking beside me through this fight. If my story stirred you, lend your voice, comment what you'd tell me, where I stood firm and where I could stand wiser. Your support helps Rachel and Emily's kind in every town. My advice: trust your gut, document everything, ask for help early, and choose boundaries over silence. Justice isn't loud, it's consistent. If someone weaponizes love, step back and call it by its name. Keep receipts, keep allies, and keep going. I'm proof the long road bends toward light and safety again.